What if I told you the best Sonic game ever made didn't actually star Sonic the Hedgehog? No, I'm not kidding. Oh, I hear you, naysayers. But Chris, this is a meme game. Shadow has a gun. But Chris, this was character assassination. Shadow shouldn't do this. But Chris, you can't defend this, can you?
You're damn
right, I can. Now, I've been wanting to make this video for a long time. Basically, since I made a PowerPoint presentation for a few close friends where my PowerPoint was larger than the game itself and still incomplete. Personally, I find this long overdue, but it is fortuitous that I work on this in the year of our Hedgehog, Fearless. For it is without fear I can declare that this is my favorite Sonic game.
Your favorite game is Shadow the Hedgehog? The one where Shadow the Hedgehog has a gun? I mean, what is wrong with you? I don't even...
This Dark Age game is the reason for our renaissance. And I, for one, am tired of people learning about this game through the lenses of those who don't even like it. And while I hope that I change a few minds, I don't necessarily expect a huge wave of changed opinions. I just want to yap about a game I adore and inspire love. Perhaps not in the deranged way that I do, but close. Because to get to this, we needed this.
It must be this us getting all the way proving for the bad-timed hero.
Now, just as a point of clarification, this video is going to have its share of factoids, a bit of a history preceding it, but in all honesty, it is mostly going to be me going through the entire game level by level and examining what is great about it. I'm not going to cover expert mode or two-player mode, largely due to time constraints and because I want to stay on topic, and those are more extra versus movie prep. And I will be using the English version because I am a clown. If you are an intellectual, please watch the Japanese version. I'd really love to one day compare the two or create an appendix that looks at expert mode and two-player mode, but I'm trying to stay focused. There's a lot to cover, and I know I'm not even going to hit all of it. I really feel like I know a lot, but there are still things that I'll learn about this game as I play, and I love that. I love this game. I love Shadow. Let's go.
He's only the second most popular character in the whole canon!
Now, if you've gone this far and don't know who Shadow the Hedgehog is, I'm so honored to be your educator on this. In the beginning, hold on, a little after this, Shadow appeared in 3 games and an anime series before getting his own spin-off. We're going to look at Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Heroes in depth as they directly communicate with the plotline of Shadow the Hedgehog. We'll give a little shout out to Sonic X as it comes up, and Sonic Battle as a handheld game that had been treated like the red-headed stepchild is going to be tabled for now. Frankly, I think Emerald deserves his own spotlight, and we'll just leave it at that. We'll take a quick peek at the development more for contextualizing the game and sort of understanding why it has the reputation it does. Other than that, we're looking at what the game gives us, plain and simple.
Looks like the party's getting started. Time to rock and roll!
Shadow the Hedgehog!
Shadow first appeared when Sonic Adventure 2 made its way onto Sega Dreamcasts in North America and around the world. I personally wouldn't meet Shadow until the GameCube version came out and I went to the kids next door to play on theirs, but I digress. What matters is that in his debut moment, he made such a lasting impression that he would go from being a one-off for a single game to a permanent fixture in the franchise. Someone who could truly be Sonic's rival in every sense. Here is where it begins.
Subject A. Good Hedgehog. Subject B. Evil Hedgehog.
Shadow was always presented as the antithesis of Sonic, their dichotomy at the heart of the Adventure 2 storyline. The game was developed by Team Sonic USA, under the direction of Izuka Takashi.
ソニックに足りなかったものはラブ。今度のゲームはソニックラブストーリーだ。
Following Adventure 1's model, Sonic Adventure 2 would be split into multiple storylines, this time with focus on teams rather than characters. Hero Story covered Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails, meanwhile Dark encompassed Eggman, Shadow, and Rouge. While Shadow is central to the entirety of Adventure 2, he only has 4 stages, 2 of which show up in Frontier's cyberspace, which is an interesting choice when it's supposed to be Sonic's memories and they could pick from any of the 6 stages that Sonic has, but instead keep me up at night with this decision. Anyway, while the Hero Story opens with the iconic city escape scene, the Dark Story opens with Dr. Eggman. Seeking a weapon created by his grandfather, Gerald Robotnik, Eggman breaks into the gun military facility on Prison Island. Upon reaching the base's core, Eggman infiltrates and proceeds to do some of the most late hacking ever by guessing Gerald's password. Luckily, Eggman is more skilled at social engineering than the translators are at localizing how one inputs a katakana password.
Password is Maria.
After inputting that definitely random and totally insignificant name, along with a Chaos Emerald, the good doctor gets to unleash onto the world a true menace on modern society who would mark all of us with his very presence. Look at that wonder. That's how I felt seeing the freaking coolest creature ever appearing to plant an edgy seed inside my soul. Anyway, Eggman thinks that he's uncovered Sonic because everybody in this universe is colorblind, and just like my mother thinks every hedgehog is Sonic, but Shadow is black and he's red and he's cool, and look at his shoes, he's going to prove himself in a boss fight that he wins because he's Shadow. Eggman continues to be a stand-in for my childlike wonder and asks more about Shadow. But because Shadow is mysterious and cryptic, he will not give any answers until he has more Chaos Emeralds. As we put a pin in that for later discussion, we also learn about Shadow going to the Central Control on the Space Colony Arc, another location we know little about. After introducing the Master Emerald B-plot along with showcasing Rouge the Bat, we eventually return to Shadow as he makes headlines being mistaken for Sonic and generally causing problems. Said problems have come to the attention of pretty well every major law enforcement agency in the world, so naturally, Shadow has to have a traumatic flashback about it. Maria! If you didn't quite hear that gunshot, the Japanese audio mixing is a tad bit better. Maria Robotnik, Gerald's granddaughter and password, used her final moments of life to send Shadow down to Earth. She also pled with him to do just one thing for her. For all the people on that planet. Adios. Sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog. Yeah, Shadow didn't actually remember the last part of that promise, but he's filled in the blanks.
Revenge!
Deductive reasoning isn't your strong point. One radical highway later, we sync up with the first boss fight of the Hero Story, where Sonic finally meets Shadow. And now that you know how Sonic got in his wacky situation from Shadow's point of view, we hop, skip, and jump over to the Space Colony Ark.
Wasn't that space colony shut down over 50 years ago?
Government intrigue and mystery aside, Shadow unveils Gerald's grandest achievement, the Eclipse Cannon, a weapon that can destroy an entire planet, which might come in handy at some point. Shadow believes this point is now, so he wants more Chaos Emeralds to turn the Eclipse Cannon on and turn the Earth to smithereens. Shadow sells Eggman on his plan by saying that he can conquer the Earth once it's destroyed, which makes sense if you've played Sonic Unleashed, but that wasn't invented yet. Before the two can shake on it, Rouge invites herself to the conversation. While Eggman asks his fair share of questions of why Rouge should help, Shadow is just kind of cool with it, and the next thing we know, we're over on Prison Island. And this plot is moving so fast, you don't have time to think about why Maria was on the same colony as a bunch of weapons of mass destruction. No, we're too busy with our own methods of mass destruction, thank you. And Shadow does a pretty good job of that. Unfortunately, Rouge kinda messes up. Those finicky safe walls in Security Hall won't let her screw attack her way out of here. And while Shadow could just leave her there, he starts experiencing deja vu, like he's been in this place before. Except this time he's not in a tube, and can actually do something. He runs over to give that a crack, and along the way runs into that blue hedgehog that also is in this game. Wait, didn't we get him arrested? Did he really already Shawshank his way out of that cell? You're not Tim Robbins! And this timer isn't messing around. Eggman reminds Shadow of that fact, while inadvertently informing Sonic. But this ain't about him, so we cut to Shadow saving Rouge from imminent destruction. Luckily that bomb was just a dud, right? Oh. Ignoring the destruction of a location we'll probably never see again, we return to the Ark for a flashback, where Shadow talks to Maria about a lot of existential stuff that doesn't really relate to her question about what it's like on Earth, but does connect with Shadow's Dostoevskian tendencies. He stops himself before composing too many notes from the underground, but all of this reminiscing does give him the melancholy of a Russian lit protagonist, which Rouge calls attention to. She also calls attention to how Shadow went back and saved her, which isn't very revenge-like of him. He does his best trying to say that this is all about the Chaos Emeralds and not her, but she's still a little suspicious. Thankfully, Eggman comes in and offers Shadow an easy out of this conversation, implying that he wants to make an announcement. Over the course of this weapons demo, you might be wondering what Maria, a small girl, was doing aboard the Ark, or why the game hasn't really addressed that. Okay, maybe not the latter part because you're 7 years old and you think that this is the coolest cutscene in the world even though the people look like monstrosities. But you might be thinking about that as the moon is destroyed, rendering the water tribes in the north and south completely powerless against any Fire Nation attacks going forward. Maybe the secret's just in the Japanese manual, that's what we're not getting. After raging about not being picked up in the algorithm despite the constant posting, Rouge reminds everybody that the most quality things will always miss the algorithm. Oh, also they need that 7th Chaos Emerald, because that's better than a blue checkmark. Rouge tells Eggman and Shadow to go touch grass, and Eggman asks why Rouge hasn't touched that last Chaos Emerald yet. Rouge busts out the copy of the New York Times that she stole off the neighbor's porch, which Eggman reads aloud. The article reports a plot contrivance, as Tails was given the last Chaos Emerald needed, which conveniently allows the Dark and Hero stories to overlap once again. Shadow ominously mentions Maria, and then walks away so Rouge can pretend she's voicing Nancy Drew. The secret of Project Shadow is still in progress, but she's determined to solve it soon, then links her PayPal. A convoluted chase ensues, because the heroes need more time and we haven't had our Halloween level yet. Skyrail is the only reason I'm not going to call this section complete filler for the dark story, even if it is. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, Sonic and Co. are escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism yet. Space! Colony Arc. Things were going okay until Tails remembered he hasn't crashed anything yet, and Knuckles would find it difficult to go "Aura, aura!" when surrounded by nothing but metal. Not to mention free emerald pieces gives Rouge something to do later. Okay, but the actual reason they're here is so that way they can play an Uno reverse card by putting in a fake emerald that will install Cloud Strike in the Eclipse cannon so everything blue screens. But besides the incompatible update, you could use it like a real emerald, in theory. Rouge was distracted watching the canyon countdown, so she missed a few cutscenes. Spying an exploitable opportunity, Rouge slips in some casual phishing tactics while getting the DL. It's a good thing no one conceived of two-factor authentication yet. The still poorly localized password rings a few bells for Rouge, but she's seen the 1995 film Hackers and knows it's only a matter of time before some guy in a bathrobe on a skateboard comes by to ruin her plans. So she looks for that garbage file, only to realize it has critical information. But a girl can't let something like the plot override her priorities. Eggman wonders if Rouge knows she's on camera, but is wildly more concerned with the Scooby-Doo plot playing out before his eyes. He also reminds Shadow who's first author on that research paper, and says he's going to fix everything, with Shadow there as the backup in case something goes horribly wrong. Quickly, we only have a few levels left, and with so much on the line, we have to up the ante even more. We need an ultimatum. So Eggman gets the jump on Tails and Amy, then tells Sonic he better give him that last Chaos Emerald, or else his friends are gonna get it. Oh, that's a gun! Sonic, quick, do something! Like, something that isn't just monologuing to yourself. Please! Sonic's aside to the audience confirms that he thinks he has the upper hand. Little does he know that this is exactly when dramatic irony loves to strike. Who's a gotcha game prize now, huh? And just to rub it in, Eggman confirms his suspicions were correct when Tails calls his bluff, and Tails feels really bad about it. Sonic does the only sensible thing that one can do in this situation, which is leave everything up to a small child and a pink girl. Surely this will speed up their character arcs. Sonic then does an impression of what would happen if Shadow's pod burnt up in the atmosphere. It's pretty convincing. I wonder if this brings up any traumatic flashbacks for Shadow.
I guess he was just a regular hedgehog after all.
Glad that's not a trigger. With Sonic out of the way, Shadow goes to give Rouge a vibe check, because he knows that she got those shoelaces from the president. J'accuse!
You're that government spy, Rouge the Bat, aren't you?
The bat's out of the bag, but Rouge doesn't care. Those are her gems, and she needs them now. And if Shadow doesn't understand that, he can eat top secret classified government report, because you're not a fugly little lizard thing, are you? Are you? Eggman calls Shadow to tell him the game's almost over, so he better squeeze in that last level and boss fight. No clue who against since Sonic blew up and all. Maybe big since we keep seeing him everywhere. Rouge asks how Shadow feels about possibly being MK Ultra'd. Shadow knows who he is, even if he doesn't. An overarching theme to his character that he'll get to right after he finishes Maria's Promise. Because this is only Sonic's 10th anniversary and not his 15th, they're not gonna kill him just yet. Sonic uses the bootleg PP Emerald to chaos control his way out, right in front of Knuckles, who's just kind of been vibing on his own and didn't expect to see an almost dead Sonic. And he really was almost dead, he had no idea if that would work or not. Time limits unfortunately get in the way of our Sonic's hurt and comfort scene, so Sonic rushes to Shadow, while Knuckles stands there, hoping Shadow doesn't do something like get in the way of his 30th anniversary. With only minutes remaining before imminent destruction of an entire planet, Sonic waits for his rival, because we need some banter to warm up. Shadow asks how Sonic is still alive, while Sonic replies with his favorite Bruce Willis film. Shadow desperately wants to know what Sonic's whole deal is anyway, to which Sonic states he's
Just a guy that loves adventure.
because he's really not that deep. And for that crime, he must perish.
Your adventuring days are coming to an end.
Ooh, there we go. I admit this section has been a very long summary. To make it up to you, here's a little bit of the final fight. You just mash A. Over and over. and hopefully win. Sonic Generations makes this section much more elaborate by adding an actual racing component. You're not racing towards the Eclipse Cannon, but at the same time, you are doing a little bit more of what the scene was implying that you would do, rather than the typical Adventure 2 boss mechanics. Though I don't know if it implied throwing asteroids at Shadow and doing whatever this is. And that is what they call a hell of a good rim job.
Sonic wins.
Right, so Adventure 2, after 6 hits, you win. God, is he dead? The dark story closes with Eggman triumphantly plugging in the last emerald to complete his plan, which dovetails with the end of the hero story, wherein the plugged-in emerald caused the Eclipse Cannon to blow up on itself. Thanks to Sonic. You blue devil. Eggman's too busy lolling to really care, though. And he doesn't notice that warning either. Huh. The last story reveals that while Sonic was successful in preventing the Eclipse Cannon from firing, Dr. Gerald Robotnik had other plans in mind. Rouge informs everyone that the space colony is on a trajectory towards Earth, likely to crash and cause catastrophic damage. Like his grandson, Gerald has an announcement to make. Even though he is about to be executed, he will execute the entire planet, as payment for executing Maria, the only good thing in his life. I mean, come on, he was stuck on a space colony dependent on the whims of grant funding, only for the government to shoot his granddaughter? Are they good for anything? Wait, are they recording this as they're about to shoot him? Who uploaded this? Eggman rolls in declaring that's his grandpappy, and when he died, Eggman inherited his diary, which was just a floppy disk containing the ravings of an absolute mad lad. Gerald intended for Project Shadow, the ultimate life form, to be a medical wonder. His granddaughter, Maria, was stricken with a terminal illness and had to stay aboard the Ark with him, as the low gravity was the only thing that kept her disease in remission. Once the military caught wind of how dangerous the experiments were, they stepped in, wanting to turn it into a weapons program, along with seizing full control. Gerald was taken into military custody, with many aboard the Ark killed in what was deemed an accident. When informed of Maria's untimely passing, and presented with the now recovered Project Shadow, Professor Gerald completed his work while imbuing his creation with one urge alone, that of revenge. Yeah, shout out to the Prima Guide for making sense of all that. Enlightened by the strategy guide she was too stubborn to buy, Eggman explains the mechanism that makes the space colony such a threat, namely how it uses the Chaos Emeralds as a source. If only there was something that could counter that. Oh right, Knuckles is here! See, that Master Emerald B plot did come in handy after all. They ought to be able to use the Master Emerald to force quit this destruction protocol, but only after going through a gauntlet where everybody plays a little bit of the level in one smooth go. Hope you have the air necklace for this section. I didn't. Everybody getting a section did not include Amy, nor did it include Shadow.
Sonic, I thought I'd never see you again. I'm so glad you made it. You're not Sonic! Who are you?
Although the last time Amy gave a pep talk, Gamma ended up killing all of their siblings, along with themselves, Amy thinks that she knows just the thing to cheer Shadow up. Shadow doesn't understand why Amy wants him to help, because everything is going according to Keikaku. Keikaku means plan. Amy tries to appeal to him, saying that people are basically good, and when you think about it, it's the thought that counts. Some might be crappy, but others just want to be happy. Wait a minute. Happy. Oh, Maria wanted a better future and for people on the Earth to be happy. That's what she wanted, not revenge. Aw, easy mistake. Well, that first attempt was a mulligan, Maria. Sorry about that. Good thing there's still a little bit of time for a take two. Okay, Maria, let's do it for realsies this time. Sonic and Knuckles have managed to reach the cannon's core, which is, I don't really want to address what it's doing. With nary a moment to admire the echidna-coated decor, we launch into the 2 boss battles that'll polish off this game. Sonic and Knuckles rush to the boss arena that stands before the core, only to be stopped by Gerald, unleashing a flurry of JPEGs. And then What is that? Oh! Oh! Who are you? Knuckles says this is the prototype. Shadow says this is the penultimate boss battle. The one that he's gonna fight. Not those two. Even though they could, because he just told them to go to the other side of the arena, and I guess they're just watching as these energy balls hit Shadow in the face over and over while he does his grinding, beating him up, and then running away from this lizard going in a circle. I mean, come on, I think Knuckles and Sonic can do something, and not the Piss River! No! This lizard really did eat so many of my lives, and because they based the 2012 port off the GameCube port, which is inferior to the Dreamcast version, and also a bad port, this fight is only good with the better SA2 mod, but I'm an idiot and played without it. After that utterly humiliating affair, it's time to actually finish this game, because if we plug this sucker in, maybe it'll turn off the Space Colony Arc Go into Earth program. Do your crazy magic, Red Echidna Man. Do you know the way? I refuse to believe that this took the same amount of time as it took me to beat the Bio Lizard, because I could tell you that is not what happened. What did happen is that the Bio Lizard chaos controlled out of here and has decided to crash the space colony all on its own. We did need our super battle after all. Knuckles thinks Sonic should do something, so Sonic looks at Shadow. Knuckles looks on in shock, because this is not what he meant when he said do something. Thus commences a scene that can only be described as something that you wouldn't call gay in 2001, but you sure as hell would call gay now. Once those two get all 7 emeralds to third base, both Sonic and Shadow attain their yellow forms! But Shadow still has some red on him. The final hazard is such a uniquely satisfying super fight, especially if you're as bad at the Bio Lizard as I am. Taking just 6 hits, you switch between Sonic and Shadow and bash into the big Resident Evil red pulsating spots on its body. If you take your time, you get some really cute dialogue between Sonic and Shadow, including Shadow possibly thinking Sonic could be the ultimate life form. But this ain't about them anymore. This is about me beating up that stupid lizard and take this creep. Yeah! Yeah! Take that, you nasty. Alright, give me that pose. Yes! As we officially put down the controller, Yellow Sonic and White Gold Shadow rush to stop the plummeting space colony. Shadow remembers Maria's promise. Working together, the two of them combine their powers and use chaos control, taking the Ark and warping it someplace else. Energy expended, Shadow plummets back to Earth, and presumably burns up in the atmosphere. The colony is returned, but at what cost? When asked what happened to him, Sonic reveals that all he has left of Shadow are his limiter rings, or inhibitor rings. We didn't really see him take those off, but we had tech limitations in 2001, and since this was to be his true demise, Sonic says, "Sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog." Or adios if you're using the Japanese voice, but you get it. And you get why this was such a big deal. Shadow was an entry point for a lot of people, and come on, if you can have a Shadow Chow, you can't just kill him. He has to come back. He's my comfort creature now. Please, Sega. I need him. Where is he? Please come back. Shadow. After Adventure 2, we wouldn't end up seeing Shadow again until the next mainline Sonic game. And this one hurt me. Now, before I get roasted, let me start off saying I do love Sonic Heroes. Really, I do. It just doesn't love me back. But I respect and slightly fear those who say that this is their favorite Sonic game. And even if I wanted to skip this game, I can't! It is quite literally the building blocks for Shadow 05. That said, I'm gonna do my best to be concise with this section because I know I went overboard talking about Adventure 2. Luckily, it's a bit easier to blitz through what happens in Sonic Heroes because the story is shorter. There are just 4 perspectives of it, and a last story hidden behind the worst special stages ever conceived. I did this for you. The fun thing about Dark Story in Sonic Heroes is that it is hard mode, but not like the game is more challenging, more like the game is just mean. And the game doesn't otherwise explicitly tell you, they just make you guess from the manual, which in its native form contains spelling errors, and some people had a misprint where Sonic was 8? Oh, not even feminist Eggman can save this one.
I'm really upset that we're doing this truly because, I did not want to play this game ever again.
With all of that off my chest, let's get to the story. Decidedly leaning out of the government spy aspect and into the treasure hunter angle, Rouge declares that she has found Eggman's secret treasure. Which is true. But a dragon doth guard this sleeping beauty, and is quite alarmed that someone is unpickling the princess. Le Casp, it's him. Rather than fireworks, Shadow's return is celebrated with firearms. Shadow flexes the triangle jump before the game even starts, and Rouge is amazed that this robot sounds like Duke Nukem. Before we can reflect on Omega's words, Shadow launches into an attack. But Rouge gets in the way and tells them they're both pretty, and then moves her ears in honestly the cutest way. Too bad the CGI is still ugly as sin. They do all these establishing shots to give the impression that time passes, but I don't really understand why. Like, the only explanation for why it took a while is because Omega kept yelling,
Destroy! Kill!
And Shadow was just confused. Since the one thing Rouge does understand is that they both hate Eggman, she decides to force them to kiss and make up so they can all be a team. And just like that, Team Dark as we know it was born. But much to my dismay, I had to start playing this campaign again. Now, here is where I'm going to say that it's really not Sonic Heroes' fault for being the way that it is. The Dreamcast was officially dead, and now Sega was developing games for hardware that wasn't their own. As opposed to Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, which was just a port, Sonic Heroes was from scratch made for non-proprietary hardware. Additionally, it was a deviation from the standard Sonic formula. This combination alone is enough to lead some people to regard this game as the harbinger for the Sonic Dark Age. Which is extremely unfair because Heroes is an innovative title. It plays on some of the things that are, in my opinion, fairly integral to the Sonic universe. Strong characters have bolstered this series for a long time. While the complaint was prevalent in the 2000s, the mid-90s is when they really started expanding the roster. Sonic Heroes more or less finalized who would be important in the series going forward. Speaking of forward, Eggman shows up to forward the plot, I guess? I mean, they were looking for Eggman and they found him, so is it over? Like, maybe after this boss fight? While there are better ways to fight this, I always use my backwards compatible knowledge and just mash until I win. But I can't be free of this game. So onwards, the story goes, where Team Dark will chase down Eggman, ask for answers, get none, and then Eggman will somehow get away, and it keeps going. We really don't see any developments until the end of Rail Canyon when you fight the Egg Albatross. Which, the dialogue at the end of this fight is so needlessly funny.
Did you forget who I am, Doctor?
Shadow, you forgot who you are. They confront Eggman to finally end the story, but they've been bamboozled.
Worthless consumer models!
But Shadow is looking somewhere else. Looking at this plot point. Now, Rouge already had a feeling the Shadow Android plot point was nigh upon them based on what Omega said, but Sonic Heroes does make it clear that this is a red herring. Because Metal Sonic, the game's real villain, declares that the ultimate lifeform data has been copied. Sure, you can argue that Metal Sonic is saying that based on Shadow still being an android, but with how prideful he is and how he doesn't say anything of note against Sonic, his true adversary, I think is kinda confirmation. Of course, Shadow didn't hear that part, so he is on a quest of self-discovery. And along the way, he meets Sonic. Because of course he does. They have to meet. They have to have one of the big team versus team boss fights that are in all of the campaigns. After substantial banter that is mostly fighty but then turns flirty, the fight sequence initiates. And once it starts, Shadow reveals he has no idea who Sonic is. He just said they have a date to die for because it felt right, I guess. During the fight, Team Sonic tries to jog Shadow's memory, but whatever. You get a B if you take over 30 seconds, so yeah. Rouge is looking for the plot, but Shadow's thinking.
That blue hedgehog like me. What did the doctor say about my memory? And just who am I?
Yeah, the exact same thing that happened at the casino plays out again, except this time they're just trying to see if that's really Eggman or if it's Metal Boy, which you know it is because Eggman respects pronouns, whereas Metal just doesn't understand them, but he's willing to learn. Team Dark pursues Egg Metal to the Air Fleet, where Shadow continues to be comedic gold.
You'll regret this, Doctor. Even if I'm not real, I'm still the ultimate life form, Shadow the Hedgehog.
Oh, it's this kind of reasoning that makes me know you're the real thing, baby. This section otherwise doesn't really matter, except for setting up Shadow potentially having a fear of heights, which we'll put a pin in. So we'll just skip to the end. After being demoralized repeatedly, we finally get to the last fight. Are you joking? Rouge kicks Shadow into this monstrosity for a minute, and the evil has been defeated. Hold on, Rouge is mimicking that scene from Toy Story 2. Fearing the worst, Rouge confides in Omega.
Hey, Omega, did I ever tell you that Shadow is a robot? And... oh, never mind. Good luck.
You know about cloning. The original must exist somewhere.
He really did just tell her that the android Shadow theory is the dumbest thing he's ever heard, huh? With all of that done, we finally finish the Dark story. But unfortunately, we are not done with this game, and we're not even on to the last story yet, because we have a detour. The big reason to talk about Team Chaotix is because their level design really acted as a pilot for what Shadow 05 would be. Unlike all the other campaigns in Heroes, wherein the team has to get to the end of a level, Team Chaotix operates under an objective system, because every mission in their campaign is governed by what is said by a wonky walkie-talkie. Team Sonic did not specifically make this system in order to apply to a cosmic starfish down the line, but I respect the experimentation. However, I do not respect Vector at all. It's just really hard to appreciate Espio and Charmy when Vector's there, dragging them down with his huge character model. Also featured in the Chaotix missions are the warp flowers, which are largely accessed by Charmy, but used as ways to access earlier parts of the level without going all the way to the end and looping back. The objective basis was the biggest change up in all of Sonic Heroes, with some of the missions being straightforward and others being ludicrous. Yeah, if you were wondering why the Team Chaotix versus Team Dark fight wasn't covered during their summary, it's because the Grand Metropolis hurt me fundamentally in both campaigns. Now, all of this is to say that the Heroes engine already had proof that objective-oriented level design could exist within a Sonic game. As Shadow focused on a single character with multiple story threads, there had to be a system to apply those changes during gameplay, as you couldn't just choose it on the opening screen. This dry run would eventually develop into what we would see implemented for Shadow's spin-off, which I really want to talk about, so let's cover the last story quick so we can finally move out of Sonic Heroes. Wait, are those the Chanel boots? The TLDR is actual Eggman hired Team Chaotix to try and stop Metal Sonic as a retribution for only being a character skin in Adventure 1 and 2. To ensure Sonic and the likes of him never do such ill respect again, he transforms, because how can you make a mere character skin out of the LEGO Company's greatest abomination? Eat your heart out, William Afton. This trash heap is now a friggin' dragon. Eggman has all but given up, as he knows Metal Sonic's legion of web crawlers has already stolen the information of every team. If only they happen to have all 7 Chaos Emeralds. Oh right, you needed those to even have access to this story. Even with the Chaos Emeralds, it will allegedly take a miracle. But Miracle is Sonic's middle name, when it's not Maurice. Shadow's amnesia is on full view.
Okay, guys, we'll buy you some time. That way you can use your superpowers.
Oh, he doesn't know he can turn white gold. You know, that's okay. This is a 4-part boss fight. Everybody has to be involved. It might be Sonic heroes, but they're all heroes.
The real superpower of teamwork!
Except, I'm only looking at Shadow, and besides giving Sonic Heroes a more solid conclusion in this quick and dirty overview, I just think Neo Metal really makes it obvious that the android plot isn't real, because he says one voice line that I latch onto. Up, there it is!
Even the ultimate life form can't stop me.
Like, Neo Metal wouldn't just say that. Neo Metal has the knowledge. If Shadow was an android, Metal would be dunking on him. Like, this really isn't just that I have a personal hatred of android clone plot lines. This is because the text pretty much tells us, like communism, it's just a red herring. Only the ultimate life form has the ability to continuously hit the middle of Metal Sonic, or be repeatedly kicked into it by Rouge, or shot into it using Omega's cannon without suffering damages. Although, this could explain why Shadow does not remember any plot point from this game. He just has the ultimate concussion. Before I can schedule Shadow's MRI, Neo Metal sprouts wings and takes off. Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails activate the emeralds in a far more family-friendly way, while Super Tails is not official yet. Hyper Knuckles is very real, so he doesn't get why he's been orbed. Similarly, Neo Metal doesn't understand why his defeat means he must serve time in handheld jail until Sonic Generations. Sonic tells him good luck in prison, then runs off, Amy in hot pursuit. We get obligatory Nux Rouge banter, and Team Chaotix realize they still gotta pay rent! Time for a shakedown! Omega cradles Metal's corpse, decommissioned. Shadow doesn't know what to do with the body, but when he looks to Sonic, he is gone, which is fine because he knows what's on the horizon. And with that, the recap is over. Woo! We did it, everybody. We took less time than the Adventure 2 section.
Discovering the secret of my past will be nearly impossible. I'll take those odds.
Shadow the Hedgehog would release in November 2005 for North American and European audiences, followed by a December release for Japan. Now, the big thing to keep in mind is the game was only announced in March, as Sonic received a star on Sony's Walk of Game, which would totally become a thing. His cute little AMV summarizing all the cool things that he'd done up to that point in the franchise was hijacked in one of the most epic reveals of all time. Beyond simply announcing a game with actual gameplay footage, Sega was announcing a new direction. In coveting that edgy adolescent audience, Shadow was a way for the franchise to mature. And since their golden boy can't shoot the broadside of a barn...
Boy, you really are a bad shot.
Shadow was the ideal candidate for expanding the brand's image. After all, 3D platformers were declining, whereas third-person shooters were becoming ever more popular. In some ways, giving Shadow a gun was just diversification of economic assets, but it was also a display of boldness, ingenuity, ambition. Shadow was going to change the game, starting right in holiday 2005. Yeah, that timeline's a little too ambitious. While the announcement delivered a solid proof of concept as well as a good picture of what was to come for the game, development was happening at a breakneck speed. To ship Shadow for the end of the year, they had to forfeit any unique visual style, instead retooling a lot from Sonic Heroes. And inheriting its problems. This already didn't bode well for a game branding itself on being a tonal shift, but maybe the new gameplay mechanics and especially the storyline would make up for that. After all, this wasn't your typical Sonic game. Nothing about Shadow was for kids.
Chaos, blast!
Go, 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 go! Gotta go fast! Gotta go fast! Gotta go fast, too fast, too fast, faster, faster!
Sonic X joined the Foxbox family in late 2003. While this didn't affect the American release of Sonic Heroes, Sega and 4Kids worked behind closed doors to have the Sonic X voice cast replace the characters in subsequent games. The original cast had already suffered a loss, with Dean Bristow passing away in January 2005. Though Sega had their sights set on product continuity well before this, fans were already expecting some form of recast. As more trailers went from video game trade shows to the general public, the voice change was becoming harder to ignore. The news was official in September, when Ryan Drummond, Sonic's voice actor of 5 years, revealed not only that the entire cast had been replaced, but that they were only informed after the fact. Ryan was mad at Sega, not Jason. But 4Kids was an easy scapegoat.
Product not yet rated.
At the time, not everybody was perturbed by the voice acting situation. This was early internet and early gaming, so only a few were aware of the situation, and of those who were, not all of them cared. During this period, video game voice acting and anime dubbing kind of had the same vibe of you'd have it, and it could be good or different.
I do have a reason. But I won't tell you what it is.
That's all to say, Sega had a chance to recover from this, banking on fans who were ambivalent, on the fence, or who just watched all of Sonic X and aged into the privileged cohort, old enough to play the first Sonic game ever rated
E10 for ages 10 and up.
Are you
Damn.
kidding? The Electronic Software Ratings Board, in March 2005, announced the first brand new rating category since its conception in 1994. So if you ever wondered why Steam says that Sonic Adventure 2 is E10 but your GameCube copy says otherwise, yeah, it just wasn't invented yet. E10 was the answer for a lack of a PG rating in the video game industry, which already had its rating system scrutinized.
As always, Sega will not approve products which contain A1, material that encourages criminality of any kind. Isn't making a game and selling it that encourages a kid to point a gun at a television set and rewards his success or her success by increasing the firepower of the gun, encouraging criminality?
Now, Team Sonic had already been working on Shadow for a while, toying with the idea that the game would either be rated T or M. That rating would depend on what the ESRB thought about the depictions of violence, and whether their use of blood for the Black Arms was minimal or intense. A rated M version of the game was recorded as a contingency. These were just alternate takes that made some of the language stronger and made use of the higher rating. E10 quickly understood itself as being more about fantasy or cartoon violence as well as mild language, but it left Shadow in a very odd position. Harkening back to the lack of visual identity, it did very much look like a cartoony game. By making the violence more fantasy-focused, aka changing the blood to green, along with toning down the language, Shadow could be part of the first cohort of E10 games. An offer Sega took for the sake of brand cohesion. And by that I mean they advertised Sonic X in every Shadow game. Once E3 rolled around, Sega showed up with the best display ever made, and were comfortable marketing the game to all ages 10 and up.
Who am I? Will he be good or evil? No one knows but you. Shadow the Hedgehog. His time has come.
Has there ever been a more important E3? Probably not. With 3 console unveilings in as many press conferences, there's no shortage of hype and dash streams.
Aw,
Damn it.
are those the new consoles? Releasing a console behind this holiday season was just a bout of bad luck. While it's true not all consoles were created equally, it meant that Shadow was out-teched out the gate. Any relative achievements in technology would be overshadowed. And gaming reviews were not kind during this era, when YouTube had only just launched and we otherwise were depending on people like this. Do you think his mom is proud? Although we were moving to better access to new games through services like GameFly, a game was a pretty big commitment still. They'd already spent the better part of the year blitzing out magazine ads, trying to build hype for a game that they were developing under an abbreviated timeline. And while at its core Shadow stayed consistent, there was the change that came with E10 becoming the new go-to rating. At nearly every corner, the forces of the universe were working against Sega in a way that no promotional Flash game could save them. Shadow really tried to be the gamer's game, and while I still dream of my Shadow the Hedgehog branded Hot Pockets, I know they wouldn't have swayed the game reviewers. And don't get me started on how the West would have reacted to the Japanese marketing for this game, despite Shadow's skills on the floor and in the ring. Even though Shadow was a commercial success, selling 2 million copies by 2007, Sega put the words of critics over the words of those actively playing. But it's not 2005 anymore. Now it's our time. Oh, we're here! After all that blathering about stuff that came before, we're finally gonna play the game? Aren't you excited? I'm excited. I've got all 3 of my Shadow the Hedgehog manuals sitting on standby, and the official Prima guide, just in case we need a little extra help or longing. You'll be mine one day. So we select story. Peak. And while there is small, faint menu text that we could be poring over, let's dive into a new game. Shadow looks upon the city, hoping to see Amy Lee doing a performance of Bring Me to Life in the distance, but he is met only with plot-relevant litter and disappointment. He broods pensively.
Shadow the Hedgehog. Why does that name haunt me? It's the only thing I can remember, and that gruesome image.
What you say?
Who am I? And why can't I remember anything? And who is this Maria?
Before Shadow can think further, the music swells. Someone did not insert their PlayStation or PlayStation 2 format disc. And even those playing on a Sony console will suffer the consequences. Descend, my Half-Life Decay rejects! Hey Shadow, how do you feel about this?
Look how pathetic they are. I don't have time for these humans.
Ooh! Well, that was ominous. We then all lay eyes on... Oh my... Is that the Great Barian Deity?
Dawn 1000!
It's not, but you've got to admit they're close. And while Dawn 1000 was voiced by David Wills, Black Doom was voiced by another frequent 4Kids farceur, Sean Schemmel, otherwise known best to me for the iconic role of Dr. Velian Crowler. Oh, that's right. Shadow the Hedgehog is a slifer lifer.
Game on, yes, game on! As you can see, the day of reckoning will soon be here. Find the 7 Chaos Emeralds and bring them to me as promised.
Daddy?
Huh? Who are you and how do you know I'm Shadow? And what are you talking about?
Despite Shadow's sensible questions, Black Doom disappears, leaving everyone confused.
Just what was that all about? If he says he knows the truth about who I am, then like it or not, I have to believe him.
Wait, roll that back, roll that back.
If he says he knows the truth about who I am, then like it or not, I have to believe him.
No, you don't.
The only way I'm gonna get the secrets to my past is to get those Chaos Emeralds.
Shadow, can we please think this through? Someone knowing your name isn't enough to build trust! Shadow! This entire game happens because Shadow doesn't know what stranger danger is. Remember the whole player choice thing? This is every choice you can make in the game. One playthrough is one route. And when you do the math, there are 326 possible routes. Because this game was made for autistic people. This map helps you keep track of Shadow's
moral relativism
and interplays with Shadow's mind system. Oh, I love this manual. No matter what, here is where we start. Because all routes start in Westopolis. Alright, June, hit me with that theme!
Promise time. Time to go and fulfill this promise.
And if the promise was the first ever skydiving section in a Sonic game, Shadow would have done it already. Good job. Now, if we just launch over to the actual stage, we do not waste any time and get a gun immediately. Oh, is that?
Hey, Shadow. Long time no see.
Your routes and playthroughs may change, but this line is your constant. It will echo in the chambers of your mind because 326 times, without fail.
Hey, Shadow. Long time no see.
Looks like these black creatures really mean business. Let's you and me show them a thing or two. Sorry, I'm a little obligated at this point. In the upper right corner, you'll notice a new thing on our HUD. And while a tooltip is going to explain this later, I'll cut to the chase and say this is the hero objective. Or in this case, what Sonic wants you to do.
That's one of the Chaos Emeralds.
Yeah, your first emerald's free. Don't ask why it was in the street. Oh, where do I start? This Wisp wannabe is the avatar for your intrusive thoughts. And I hate him. So
damn
much. This fugly starfish takes over as your companion. Sonic's suddenly nowhere to be seen, and your upper right objective replaced by an upper left one. This is your dark objective. Now, during any point in the game, all objectives are active, regardless of who you're bringing along as your companion. Shadow's mind system is based on actions, so you can commit war crimes with Sonic next to you the entire time, for lulz.
Shadow, what are you doing?
Sonic, he had an SMG. Now, the homing attack is still a thing, don't worry about that. It's just guns are much faster. And there are plenty of them, with ranging effectiveness and ranging overall fortunateness. Oh.
That's one of the Chaos Emeralds.
Considering Westopolis is your first level, you're not going to be terribly picky about your firearms. You're really just looking at gun military or black arms variants of single shot guns or semi-autos. Nothing fancy.
Swap your weapons for another weapon that's on the ground. Just press the X button. Personally, I wouldn't be caught dead using those things.
Go on, Sheriff. Blow him away.
No, I won't let him live that down, no matter how many black wings he gets for me. Speaking of, I pointed out the objectives, but not really what they were. Sonic's objective tasks you with eliminating 45 black arms. Meanwhile, Black Doom will want you to get rid of 35 human gun soldiers. Both enemy types active on the map can and will hurt you.
Damn it.
I'm not gonna pretend that this isn't a huge turnoff for some players. Westopolis immediately demands two objectives with very little room for error. There are exactly 45 black arms, and black wings are easy to miss. Plus, black warriors will sometimes operate with a drop spawn, which isn't as brutal as heroes' drop spawns, but does require knowledge of where to go to ensure the enemy appears. Technically, the Dark mission has leeway, as there are 36 gun troops on the map, but no one really expects you to get that golden gun beetle towards the end. As a result, Shadow starts with a seemingly steep bar for entry, leading some to give up as soon as Westopolis was done, and before they got to hear all the dialogue.
They all seem to have black and red bodies. When you spot them, smash them.
Microaggression. Hit him.
Damn it.
By the way, I grew up in New Jersey and didn't know damn was a bad word, so while others have assured me it was pretty raw that Shadow would say damn all the time, this is how I talked when I was 10.
Damn!
Okay, so by this point in the level, at least one of your gauges is probably filled up, or pretty close. These gauges symbolize your special moves. As Shadow would say,
the power of justice grants me chaos control, the ability of instant teleportation. The power of evil gives me the ultimate destructive power of Chaos Blast.
So if Shadow's been a good boy, he'll start glowing blue. And with the power of Mountain Dew voltage coursing through him, Shadow can manipulate space and time.
Chaos Control!
Except you almost never want to use Chaos Control if you're going for a hero mission. While pressing your designated special action button will have its uses, you really don't want to use Chaos Control unless you're assured that you won't miss any enemies required for your objective. Not to mention the potential to miss save points that you will need if you need to backtrack, or
if for some reason I totally blow it.
Though you can cancel Chaos Control partway through, you're typically better off taking advantage of Shadow's invincibility and unlimited ammo. Especially since every black arms eliminated while in a hero state will replenish your gauge a little bit. But there is another gauge on the other side of the screen. This one powered by Mountain Dew Code Red. The rush of cherry flavor unlocking the evil destructive powers, which makes Shadow red and gives him the power of Temper Tantrum.
Chaos Blast!
Get out of here! Chaos Blast wipes out everything within a 20-yard radius, allegedly. And it does not discriminate, meaning any enemy and any object is getting obliterated. One blast costs about a third of your gauge, and while you can make it up on Westopolis, just take advantage of the invincibility and ammo. Now that I've covered that spiel, I'm gonna backtrack a minute, because there's a very important tooltip. This one right here.
Hate to tick off gun, but it looks like using homing attacks on those robots is the only way past.
Now, once upon a time, I saw something that said this line was originally,
hate to piss off gun.
And I don't know how true that is. I want to know if we were robbed of Sonic canonically saying piss. It's out there somewhere, and damn, I just want to hear him say it.
That's kind of weird.
You know, I would use the D-pad to switch characters, but Black Doom's chilling right over there, so let's just grab him. Give me a chance to compose myself. Never mind, I hate you. So much
Huh?
Did you just lift a bus? Some large objects Shadow can overturn, like buses.
Yeah, smash them up.
Right, this was detailed during the crane section, but the black arms left glowing fruit around.
Ugh.
Don't touch them. They hurt. Wait a second, was that?
Hello.
Tony-nominated actor Andrew Rannells? Oh, and just as you were getting your big break on Broadway. But this was big to me. This little area of the game also introduces the idea that you can interact more with the environment, including putting out fires nearby, which will partially replenish your hero gauge. Actually, considerably more than you'd expect. It's a bit of an awkward mechanic that more or less tries to make better use of melee weapons, and counteracts Black Doom's urge to have Shadow do unlimited property damage. Though Sonic doesn't say boo when you take out a few street lamps when trying to get those Blackhawks. Since this Shadow game is still a Sonic game, we've got a loop-de-loop!
Yahoo!
God, are you trying to spawn in? I think I'm gonna have nightmares about that now.
Hey, Shadow.
Never do that again. Oh, the door! This ain't a guide, I already have the 5 keys. So let's see what's behind.
Ugh!
Oh yeah, this game introduces vehicles! Don't worry if you haven't found all the keys. There's a Jeep right over here. And if you're wondering why Shadow would need a Jeep when it is in fact slower, it's just cool. Now, as cool as it would have been to have Sonic riding shotgun in the Jeep with you, I am painfully aware of how this game had a quick turnaround and a messy production, so I will just be thankful for my competent companion AI and look the other way. Because the other way still has Shadow being super cool, riding a car, not out of any form of necessity, but purely out of want. Because Shadow the Hedgehog is just that
damn
awesome.
Damn, not here.
Did I mention the car is kind of hard to stop? Now, for those concerned about time, we're currently in the era of Sonic games wherein respawning at a checkpoint reset your time. You'll always resurrect at the checkpoint farthest along in the level, but save points are also fast travel points. So compared to later Sonic games, you're actually in a pretty flexible position in terms of time. Right, Blue Boy?
It looks like most of the citizens have been evacuated. I feel so sorry for them.
Sonic, you could say it. People die.
Damn it.
In case you're wondering, when you get hit in Shadow the Hedgehog, you only lose 10 rings. While Shadow can take a hit so long as he at least has his wedding ring, one hit taking away 10 rings rather than all of them simplifies gunplay and... Hold up! A gold ring and a Chaos Emerald? Wowee! But wait, weren't there some objectives I was supposed to do?
Once I find all of the emeralds, then I'll find the truth. Perfect.
So I haven't been entirely honest with you, because I focused on Black Doom's mission, as well as Sonic's mission, but I didn't tell you about the secret third mission, which is to just get the Chaos Emerald and leave. This satisfies the neutral objective. If you did want to finish the hero mission or the dark mission, you'll need to sidestep the emerald and go down one more skydiving section, because you either have 2 more gun troops or 3 more black arms. And it is absolutely possible to chaos control into the neutral ending by accident, because chaos control benefits Shadow. With some spraying and praying, you can beat the dark mission before you hit the ground.
Anybody who gets in my way is my enemy. Perfect.
Why are you flaccid? Just put the calculations on screen. This is making me uncomfortable. So for the hero mission, you just walk a couple extra steps forward and hope that you lock onto those black wings. Oh boy.
That's all of them!
Disgusting black creatures, get out of my sight.
And that's how you beat Westopolis.
Perfect.
Now, we cut to something truly terrifying. Humans in a Sonic game! Hey Yako, I need a new Countries of the World song. And somebody needs a new alarm. The fuck is that? Cool guys don't turn to answer the door.
The black aliens have hit 6 major cities around the world, and every city is reporting significant damage and casualties.
It looks like most of the citizens have been evacuated. I feel so sorry for them.
Among them, Westopolis has received the heaviest casualties due to its weakened defense system.
It looks like most of the citizens have been evacuated. I feel so sorry for them.
Wait, are they watching the opening cutscene? They're just only showing stills that don't feature
Black Hedgehog in Westopolis.
Shadow?
So if I don't talk about this guy now, we're never gonna talk about him. Before he was given a name by the most undivisive Sonic writer, this silver fox was simply known as the Commander. And much like Daddy Argent in the early seasons of Teen Wolf, he's a hater. In fact, for reasons known only to him, he harbors a deep hatred of Shadow. And unlike the other guy with heterochromia that Mark Thompson voiced, the Commander actually remembers the critical information. Hence the hater thing. And you're gonna hate me, cause I'm leaving it at that.
Deploy the troops now! And if you find Shadow with the black aliens, then kill them all.
But sir, isn't Shadow on our
I
side?
gave you an order, soldier. He's evil and he's the enemy.
Bro, you made him poop his pants.
You can't fool me, Shadow. This time, you're mine.
What is your damage, dude? You know what? I'm not your therapist, so let's just cut back to Shadow.
Attention! Emergency broadcast to all mobile units. Headquarters to all mobile units.
Peekaboo to you too, Shatters.
Be on the lookout for Shadow, the Black Hedgehog.
Microaggression!
Wanted in connection with the terrorist attacks.
How terrorist when so baby girl? Look at how tiny he is. Come on.
Orders are, capture him. Dead or alive.
Out of my way. Coming through.
Stop! Don't move, or we'll shoot!
Stupid humans.
He's gonna do the thing! The thing from the opener!
It's me. Hi.
I'm the problem, it's me.
This is gonna be so cool. Oh.
Very impressive, Shadow.
Who are you?
Oh, now you ask?
You don't remember anything, do you? But you will in time. But now, there's no time to waste here. Go and access the United Federation's mainframe. Understand?
Got it.
No, you don't. Do you even know what a mainframe is? So, let's get back to that.
Moral relativism.
Because I just kind of let those cutscenes play, but didn't elaborate. Westopolis represented your first choice of the game, with the mission objective you completed governing what stage you've unlocked next. The commander's cutscene will always trigger as a prelude to stage 2. The Shadow check-in depends on your prior actions and paves your first story path. And since I showed the cutscene already, we'll reap our rewards for killing 35 soldiers by going to hack the government. Yay!
What is this sensation? I feel weightless atop this light.
Shadow, are you high?
I see. I can control which way this leads.
That didn't answer my question. Like, did I miss when you took something? Did I take something? Oh no.
Shadow, this is the information highway system that they call cyberspace. Delete the core program that controls the data flow, and the world will plunge into chaos.
Wait, like the core program that runs the entire internet? Or like specifically the gun intranet? Are we sure that Shadow didn't take anything? Digital Circuit is definitely one of the more vibrant levels in terms of coloration and style. You can tell that they definitely watched the 1995 film Hackers, which I referenced earlier in the Sonic Adventure 2 section. For a reason. And sure, there are some valid questions about how the Black Arms are existing in this computer system, but maybe they're all just expert hackers. They linked into the brains! Just go with it! We have to stop the government.
Oh, Shadow. What a coincidence running into you here.
You're that government spy, Rouge the Bat. It's no shock we run into Shadow's BFF this early on in the story, and it's also no shock they're emphasizing the government spy part of her a lot more than the treasure hunter part. She's also being voiced by Kathleen Delaney, who is by far my favorite voice for Rouge the Bat. And even though I'm convinced she recorded Shadow the Hedgehog while she had a cold, her performance is still outstanding compared to what we have now. For whatever reason, there is a Chaos Emerald in the internet, and Rouge wants Shadow to help her make a better Wreck-It Ralph 2.
In this world, your form is completely electronic without mass.
Once again, suspend your disbelief. Rouge isn't a scientist, so she's not going to explain it that well, but it's a very fun gimmick. Speaking of fun gimmicks, the poles are back. Remember those? They were in Sonic Heroes. You'd need to use your speed-type whirlwind to make a tornado around them and go, whee! They must be reusing this gimmick somehow with the whirlwind mechanic. I mean, what else would they use the pole for? This is the best game ever. Why did they not bring this back for Shadow Generations? You even got Teddy Lloyd! My mourning of Shadow's rendition of Fly Away aside, we shall press on along more lightspeed currents. But now there are firewalls getting in the way. And because Electronic Hedgehog is not a trusted data packet, it will hurt you if you hit it. Although this is an on-rails section compared to, say, the buggy in Sonic Heroes, they're really fun transitional parts of the level that lend to the aesthetic of being within a computer system. I mean, I personally didn't build my PC with a bunch of gun beetles inside, but I think that's because they're only compatible with Windows Vista and older. Digital Circuit has a very special place in my heart, in part because the first time I played Shadow the Hedgehog and did the Evil Path, this felt like such a wild tonal shift. You really just expect Shadow to look at Rouge and go,
I think we're in a gay club.
Which I'm still not convinced we aren't in one. I know what Night Babylon Zone looks like. After jumping along the green platforms that coddle you and aren't there in expert mode, you learn that the green stuff can also become a wall. It compensates for the very small areas that you can't fit many enemies in. While I hate denying my son the pole, this is such an easy jump. Since this level is heavier on obstacles than enemies, this is one of the rare cases where you're actively scrounging for ammo.
Aw, stupid walls.
Damn it.
Sorry, Shadow, the shock of Rouge not realizing she can sidestep a barrier when she's a government spy and treasure hunter threw me for a bit of a loop! Luckily, we've beaten those pesky walls and are on to the horizontal bars. Oh, look at him hang there! He's so cute hanging on with his right hand and his left hand's got his gun ready to shoot. Oh, ultimate cutie patootie. That's my little Shatters right there. Continuing with the level, there are those obstacles that don't make sense, and a road over to the secret door area. This is one of the more useful secret doors because unlike Westopolis where you just get a car and a gun, this warps you to an alternate area so you have different options for the lightspeed current. You can still get an A rank if you do it the basic way without the secret door, but the point of the secret door isn't so much to secure an A rank every time. Don't get me wrong, there is a rush of dopamine and serotonin that goes off when Shadow goes.
Perfect.
But the better way to think about the secret doors is they're meant to be some form of quality of life improvement, so it's easier to complete the level somehow because you're going to be completing these levels over and over again, especially if you want every library entry unlocked. So every A rank is obtainable without any form of bonus. Using perks is entirely up to your discretion. Just like it's up to Rouge's discretion to do absolutely nothing when I'm attacked by the government, because she really doesn't want any of these gun beetles leaving the program, going to HR and the president, and saying that she's enforcing a hostile workplace. Okay, it's actually because characters will only attack enemy types as labeled per their alignment, but I like my explanation more. Ah, sweet! Lives don't really mean much, but they make me happy. Unlike that guy. My beef with this guy is stupid. If you mistime your homing attack, you're pretty screwed. He shoots at you when he's closest, and he's weirdly a barrier to a very elegant fluid section of this level, which I always feel should be initiated with a homing attack, because then it's symmetrical. It makes sense as you go through, homing attacking each time, and going with the searchlights. There's a rhythm to it that feels right. Except then I discovered you could just shoot him, and I don't like that. I think it ruins the flow. I think this is set up perfectly for homing attack to homing attack to homing attack. You might have a gun, but you always get to use it when you want to, and I think this section you shouldn't. You should homing attack. Sorry, I just really like when aspects of level design and gameplay mesh really well together to create something beautiful and cinematic. And while graphically limited, this game has a lot of those moments.
There it is. That's the Chaos Emerald owned by the government.
The what? Why was it? Since when does the government? Huh?
Sorry about this, but I'm taking this emerald. Perfect.
Is a Chaos Emerald a WMD? Asking for a friend. Since Digital Circuit doesn't have a neutral mission due to it being in a peripheral corner of your
moral relativism,
the hero mission acts more like a neutral mission. But like Westopolis, there's actually more level going on. Taking a searchlight to an upper area reveals new secrets, this time in the form of...
That's a warp hole. It's linked to another warp hole in a different location.
Rouge, why did you have to say it like that?
Where are we?
She doesn't know. I can only assume that particular warp hole represented Shadow getting access to Ring 0, so we're in the kernel of whatever we're in. Shoo! I can hear you people saying how it's annoying that you can switch out companions all the time, so you might accidentally complete the wrong mission, but I love that I don't have to listen to Black Doom any more than I choose to. I just prefer Rouge's confusion to Black Doom going,
destroy the core program.
I get it, dude. You're a Linux guy. Probably an Arch Linux guy. But shut your Raspberry Pi hole already. At last, we find where System 32 lives.
What in the world is this? Is this really the main room?
Of course it is, because it's a really big tower, which means it's important. But if you forget where the way up is, you kind of have to ride this merry-go-round a bit and then see my other enemy, also known as a basic jump to grab onto a pole that if I don't get first try, I will bounce up and down over and over, bonking Shadow's head, looking like a little silly bean, until finally we get back up and then get in position and pray we grab on. Oh, thank God. It's timing-dependent sections like these that make me glad that A-ranks have cushion room. Because while I admire the vision, this is not ideal for a time crunch. Don't worry, it's almost the end of the level, but not without one more pole dance. Go, Shadow! Okay, admittedly going up the pole is a little bit less elegant, but it gets the job done. At last, we find the heart of Windows XP, and upon seeing the Bliss background, Shadow just starts blasting.
Well done, Shadow.
Wait, I commit anti-state actions and all you give me is well done?
Whatever happens to the humans is no concern of mine. Perfect.
Let's digi-make our way out of here. Well, we've got Digital Circuit done, we just need Glyphic Canyon and Lethal Highway, and we ought to have a pretty good part 1. Just before the movie comes out, too. Oh, hey Shadow.
Only a fool would dare try to stop me now.
Huh?
Playtime is over.
Shadow, get back here. Okay, I admit, I really wanted this to be done for one of the anniversary dates. I wanted to get this all done before the movie came out. I'm just one person doing this, Shadow.
Are you ready to admit your own foolishness?
Shadow, you don't have to do that.
Time to step it up.
Please, part 2 will be so much better.
Sorry to disappoint, but this is the end.
Shadow!